Canada, and then also Mexico, and then also the 4 other nations. Japan, they were actually the first, other than the host nations, to qualify for the tournament. Not just them, Iran also have qualified. Argentina are also in there, then New Zealand. So out of the 48 teams that will be competing at the Mondial next year, 7 already have booked their places there. But then let's focus a bit on the CAF World Cup qualifiers, because we've seen some powerhouses actually, making strides. The likes of the Black Stars of Ghana, the Atlas Lions of Morocco, the Pharaohs of Egypt, all these countries, even Senegal, are still gunning. The indomitable Lions of Cameroon also in the mix to qualify for the World Cup next year. But then there's just one powerhouse actually that we could talk about all day, because their form and then also their performances in the World Cup qualifiers has been mind-boggling, and then also way below par. But before we delve deeper into that one, let me remind you that you can also subscribe to our channel, the Our Media Sports channel on YouTube, and then also across the various social media handles. It is Our Media GH. You can also don't forget that you can also hit the like button and then also subscribe. Like I said, if you have any comments as well, as far as the World Cup qualification is concerned, it's not too early, neither is it too late for you to predict who you think could walk away with the World Cup. Do you think Argentina could end up defending their title at the trophy they won in 2022 in Qatar? They still have a good squad after beating Brazil 4-1 in the qualifiers. Or you think Spain could win the title for the first time since 2010? Do you think Germany or Italy, both on 4 titles apiece, could end up winning their 5th title? Or you think Brazil, it's now time for them to shine again since 2002? Let us hear from you. Wherever you're watching this video around the world, just let us hear from you, because we could give you a shout out in the next one. Now, let's take a critical look at Nigeria, the Super Eagles of Nigeria. So there's a team that, in the last AFCON, about a year ago in 2024, they were in Cote d'Ivoire, and what a game they had, what a tournament they had. It was a spectacle for them. So they made it all the way to the grand finale. They nearly clinched their 4th AFCON title. Unfortunately, they just, the only thing that stood, in between Nigeria and then also a 4th AFCON title was a very strong Ivorian side. They were host nation, so they managed to beat Nigeria by 2-1. But you don't take anything away from the Nigerian side, led by Jose Peseiro, the Portuguese international. So right after those, heroics and exploits at the AFCON, they started their World Cup qualification campaign with 2 straight draws, and everyone kept asking questions. But unfortunately, there was so much pressure mounting on Jose Peseiro that he had to step down. So the Nigerian Football Federation deemed that, wise to bring on board a former player of the Super Eagles. That's Finidi George. So he also took charge, but at some point, the results were not really, going their way. So they also went ahead to bring in another coach who really made, some exploits, who gained, a lot of popularity as far as his work is concerned, and then also that epic game between Cote d'Ivoire and then also Mali. So Eric Chell was also appointed the new head coach of Nigeria. But unfortunately, it looks like their World Cup qualification campaign is hanging on a thread. It looks, more dangerous for Nigeria to qualify for the World Cup. So it's not really going well for them. We are looking at a team that has got the last 2 winners of the African Player of the Year award. That's Victor Osimhen and then also Ademola Lookman. So these are, big names as far as African football is concerned. Not just them, but then these players are also surrounded by players like, Simon Moses, Chukwueze, you have Ola Aina, who plays for Nottingham Forest. You have William Troost-Ekong, who has been, a rock-solid defender. There's Calvin Bassey, don't forget that. There's Samuel Ajayi, who also plays for Fenerbahce. There are quite a lot of players, in this. Wilfred Ndidi is there. So you can go on and mention, stars. They've actually, assembled, stars, African stars in this team. And you wonder what is happening to Nigeria. Why are they not able to win games? So far, after 6 games played in the 2026 AFCON World Cup qualifiers, if I should put it, Nigeria has managed to win just 1 game, and they've drawn 4 and they've lost one as well. So you're looking at, out of an available 18 points, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, have only won 7 out of 18, which means that they've dropped 9 points. And in that same group, South Africa, that keeps on making waves because they are leading the table by 13 points. And it looks likely that South Africa could be heading to another World Cup, which would be great for South Africans. But for the Nigerians, yeah, I know that in the last World Cup edition, they failed to qualify because they lost to the Black Stars of Ghana. You remember that game? It was very, very cagey, very scintillating when they met, and the Black Stars had to edge Nigeria out. That rivalry, it's always been there, the Jollof Derby, and then Ghanaians will be quite elated. But you look at the form of Nigeria, a team that finished second at the AFCON, and then also they have also booked a place at the next AFCON in Morocco later in 2025. So there's a team that has got so much quality, and you ask, why are they struggling? What is actually wrong with Nigeria? Is it that the new coaching needs time to adapt? Because throughout this World Cup qualification campaign, the Nigerian national team has been coached by 3 different coaches. They've been managed by 3 different coaches. So they started with a coach that led them to finish second at the AFCON in Jose Peseiro. They brought in their legend, Finidi George, and then they are now stuck with Eric Chell, who is also one of the best coaches, or was one of the best coaches we saw at the AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire last year. So you keep asking, is it something spiritual? Should we be looking at it from a spiritual standpoint where you feel Nigeria need to do a lot spiritually to ensure qualification to the World Cup? Mind you that the first time they qualified to the World Cup was in 1998. And since then, they've qualified to the World Cup 6 times. 6 times. So including that first qualification in 98, they were there in 2002, they were there again in 2006, they missed out. Then they qualified for 3 straight World Cups. That's in 2014, they were there in 2010 as well. So after missing out in 2006, in 2010 they were there in 2014, and then in 2018. So since making their debut at the Mondial in 1998, Nigeria has really been a powerhouse. When you talk about powerhouses in African football, I'm not sure you could mention top 5-6 names without mentioning Nigeria. They've produced some of the best players from the African continent. You talk about Nwankwo Kanu, you talk about JJ Okocha, you talk about Taribo West, you talk about Amokachi, the list goes on and on and on. And I told you that the last 2 African Player of the Year awards have gone to Nigerians. So there's not a team that you would say do not have enough quality. They've got so much quality. But you look at the teams they also have in their group. So there's Benin in Nigeria's group. Benin already beat Nigeria, this particular, during the qualifier. So Benin are the only team to have beaten Nigeria. But you look at the number or amount of draws they've had. So they've drawn South Africa at home, and just recently they also drew against Zimbabwe. It doesn't make any sense. You look at what is happening to Nigeria. Yeah, it's synonymous to what happened to the Black Stars of Ghana during their 2025 AFCON qualification, when they were losing to teams like Sudan, Niger, Angola, and nothing was working for them. And some people felt the coach wasn't good enough. Others were also thinking, see, it's something spiritual. Let's just delve into the spiritual realm and see what's happening. I believe 90% of Nigerians could even say, yeah, it's spiritual, because it's a very, very religious country. But we are not talking about anything, spirituality here. We are just dealing with the fact, the numbers over there. So Nigeria, in 6 games in the AFCON World Cup qualifier, they've scored just 7 goals and they've conceded 6. So they have, a paltry goal difference, despite the fact that it's a superior one. Yeah, it's not a negative goal difference. It's just +1. Tells you the state of the Nigerian team. For me, I'm here to share my view. I feel there's quite a lot happening to Nigeria. And for me, I don't think they would even make it to the World Cup based on their form and what they are supposed to, and the games they are supposed to play. Not long ago, Hugo Broos, the head coach of South Africa, also came out to say that they believe that Nigeria is going to help South Africa qualify to the World Cup. Why? Because Nigeria would need points. So they'll definitely get to beat the teams that are trailing, or even hunting down or breathing down the neck of South Africa. It makes sense. This is just, just mathematics. You just play the team, you win, and then I win my game, and then I stretch the lead. So you look at the games coming up for Nigeria, they have a very daunting trip to South Africa to play the Bafana, which is one of the games that even Hugo Broos and the South African national team, have actually tipped to be a must-win for them, because they were able to go to Nigeria and they were able to upset Nigeria, and they held them to a 1-0 draw. So you look at a series of poor run of results for this Nigerian national team, It doesn't make sense, especially looking at the fact that they finished second at the AFCON. They've qualified to Morocco 2025 AFCON. And then they are failing to beat teams like Zimbabwe and Benin. That is where the problem is. I believe my Nigerian brothers and sisters wouldn't really be happy. Ghanaians will be happy they'll be going to the World Cup. Perhaps they feel, missing out on the AFCON. Yeah, at least, And that rivalry between Ghana and Nigeria always continues. From music to culture to clothing to movies to, everything. Everything is always a jollof derby between Ghana and Nigeria. And, perhaps after Nigeria qualified for the AFCON and Ghana failed too, you could just imagine the trolls, on social media. The Jollof Derby swung in favor of the Nigerians, and then all of a sudden, Ghanaians, the Ghana Black Stars are in pole position to qualify to the World Cup, but Nigeria are missing out. So at some point, you would say, yeah, it just swung in favor of the Ghanaians. But which one is more important, qualifying to the AFCON or qualifying to the Mondial? I don't know. I just feel, it's always a privilege to play, the AFCON, the most prestigious tournament, in the continent or on the continent. But for the World Cup, come on, 48 teams. That's quite historic. It's not been done ever in the history of the competition that you have 48 teams just converging to play for a single trophy. And I believe Nigerians are going to miss that. But the question we are asking is clear. For me, I feel the Nigerian team lacks balance. I feel that there's no balance in the team. You can't have a team filled with so many attackers that you end up pairing Chukwueze and then also Wilfred Ndidi in midfield. You do not have cover. I think that has been the one of the the reasons why Nigeria or the Super Eagles have really struggled in recent times. They have so many attackers. You mentioned the attackers, and there's quite a lot of them. Victor Osimhen, one of the best number 9s we have in the world. There's Ademola Lookman. There's Simon Moses. There's Samuel Chukwueze. You could go on and mention a lot of players. But then you ask yourself, a proper team, a well-drilled team should have balance. So once you talk of having the best attackers, I think you should also, boast of some good defense and then midfielders. And I believe that has really been the bane for this Nigerian side. I wouldn't want to be, a naysayer or a doomsayer, but I think it's over for Nigeria. It's over for them. And I don't think they can qualify for the World Cup. There are 4 more games coming up in September later this year, and then also October. And they could at least try, to get a win in all 4 games. Perhaps they'll be hoping that even South Africa could drop points in all games so that at least they could also qualify for the World Cup. But for me, it's a no-no for me. So what do you also make of the Nigerian Super Eagles after that shambolic run in the World Cup qualifiers? Do you think they get to qualify to the Mondial, or you think at this point it's bye-bye, Nigeria?